Minnesota in probably 20 years.
Bring gas. Welcome to Flagrant Howls, a Minnesota Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.
There he is, the sports dad himself, Phil Mackey. And this is the first of, I think it's just going to be a weekly thing we do every Monday from now through the end of the Wolves season, our State of the Wolves episodes. So we do this on the Score North Twin Show, and we do it with the State of the Offense on Purple Daily for the Vikings. We thought it'd be fun to bring this format as a weekly benchmark here on Flagrant Howls. So we're going to go through, and they haven't played any like regular season games, but once the way this will work is once they start the actual season, we'll give you their record, where they stand in the Western Conference, offensive rating, defensive rating, and just some different like snapshots of where they are relative to the rest of the league, playoff odds, and then a few key questions and categories every single week that we get into here. So how are you feeling after watching, I don't know, the first quarter of that first preseason game on Friday was very exciting.
The Lakers got nothing on our
Dude,
Wolves.
and now it's
really good.
They didn't do it on Friday, but last night, like the LeBron and Bronny were out there together for 4 minutes.
Well,
like,
I mean, I don't think it takes a genius to deduct that for the most part, JJ Redick was hired to be LeBron's basically caddy as coach.
Yeah, and JJ Redick is really sharp and schematically, but yeah, like we need someone that's going to come in here and get along with LeBron and maybe play Bronny.
And Bronny too, because like, I mean, I think there's a lot of folks in the league who agree he should not be in this league, right? So like, if you're a respected coach, you might be like, well, I'm not going to deal with that. Yeah. So yeah, I think what's transpiring there, we've seen it before, and it's very transparent.
There was a funny moment, not that this is not a Lakers podcast, but there was a funny moment where a reporter asked JJ Redick about, I think it was Hachimura, like, you know, what is it going to take for Rui to take the next step? And Redick said, "What's the next step?"
Oh, I saw this, yeah.
And he goes, "Well, you know, just like getting to the next level, next step." He goes, "Well, that's a narrative. That's that. You tell me what the next step is." And he's already just like sparring with reporter narratives. And I love some of that because he wants to be a teacher and kind of change. But anyways, on the Timberwolves. So right now on DraftKings, Western Conference #1 seed odds, Oklahoma City going into the next half of the preseason games is still the #1 favored team to win the West, followed by Denver, the Mavericks, and then the Wolves are a plus 500. OKC is a plus 340, and the Nuggets and Mavericks are plus 450, plus 475. Then there's a huge gap, and it goes Lakers, Suns, Grizzlies, Warriors into Pelicans, Kings, yada, yada, yada. So very clear-cut, 4 top teams in the West, but the Wolves are 4th for Western Conference odds. And then for finals, like NBA champion, the Celtics are the odds-on favorite, a plus 310. Thunder plus 700. Knicks now with Karl-Anthony Towns, a plus 800. So the third most likely champion, the New York Knicks right now. And then the Sixers at plus 900, Nuggets at plus 950, Wolves at plus 1,000. The Knicks being a more likely finals winner than the Wolves is something I would definitely poke at. But your general thoughts on the Wolves being the 6th most likely team to win the whole thing?
I don't know at this point in time. Look, the cat to the Knicks, like I think we talked about this on one of the shows briefly last week. Cat to the Knicks is going to be, for now, New York and the national people, assuming that premium cat has gone there. So like cat at his best,
all the good, the 60 point.
They're not, look, it's going to take them some time to understand cat. And that does not mean he won't be good. It does mean that any assumption that you are getting a guy who's just going to go in and ball, just be tough as nails. It's not him. So I think the Knicks are being spiked up because, one, they acquired a big name New York guy, and two, the assumption is, well, the best of cat is just going to go, and the worst of cat will just stay at Target Center, and that's that. So, but I think 6th is fine. It's fair. Like these things right now, what we know is this. think it's fair to say this. There's a lot of good teams in the West, especially, right? Like there's a lot of very good teams. And it's going to be a battle. And so I don't think that there's an obvious like, oh man, the Wolves are being disrespected in this crappy team. And the Knicks thing doesn't surprise me one bit, because what's going to happen is once they realize who Cat is at times, the other shoe is going to drop, and then he's absolutely going to get criticized constantly. And that's where I'm curious from Carl's point of view how that's going to work, because truthfully, aside from the TNT guys carving Cat up at times for his play with the Wolves, especially
locally,
dude,
people thought I was like an ass for calling him out.
Yeah. Like, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the city when they realize what you sometimes get from Cat and sometimes what you really get from playoff Cat.
Yeah. So let's jump into the first category here. Wolves vibes are blank right now.
After going to media day last week, I would say they're professional. There's a mission here. There is a goal here. This is not a young up and coming team, and they don't really know what they can do. This team went to the Western Conference Finals, kept things close. We're very disappointed in their performance, and I would say it's very professional. It's very calculated. It doesn't feel too high. It doesn't feel low. And look, Ant is at a point now where he's taken, I think, a huge step, because the Olympic experience, which if you're a veteran, I'm like, stay home. A guy like Ant, it's the best thing ever, right? Because he's now had that. Hold on a second here. I was around all of these like all-time greats, and he's a smart dude. He learns. Mm-hmm. So I think that Ant is going to come back even more unsatisfied than the night he walked out after the Mavericks won the Western Conference Finals, because I think the Olympic experience and being around that greatness molds you. And I don't know that you can get that experience unless you're around it. And then Chris Finch to me is just a professional. He's really good, but he's a professional. Like, he doesn't go crazy. You don't feel like there's the Tibbs ebbs and flows. You just feel like he knows what he wants. He knows it's a long year. And so I would say the feeling that I have is that this team is professional. The vibe.
You know, I saw this quote. I didn't see this interview, but it was Sam Mitchell interviewed Anthony Edwards on the NBA TV.
I saw some of this
telecast.
During media day.
Longtime Timberwolf. And at one point, he was the interim coach when Flip was going through when Flip passed away.
Yeah.
But Anthony Edwards was asked about what did he learn at the Olympics, to what you were saying. I think that was the best part about the whole thing was the practices, Ant said. I think the best thing that I learned was from Steph. I took Bron's pregame routine, but Steph just playing without the ball. The last few days I've been playing 5-on-5. I just be cutting, getting out of the way, getting easy shots. I think I learned the most from Steph. And yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it's not even what he did. And for a while, he was the leading scorer in the Olympics. And then Steph decided to show up for the semifinals and the finals and put on just a historic show. It's all the stuff that we didn't see. It was the practices. Right. It was the bus rides, the trips, the hotel, just being behind the scenes with Kevin Durant. I would say Wolves vibes are under the radar right now. So Brian Windhorst, friend of the show, he's been on a few times back on the old radio show, not Flagrant Howls, but so he went on ESPN. I think like the general consensus is shocked that this trade happened, but then secondarily, why would the Wolves do this? Why would they shake this up? Boy, the Knicks just got Karl-Anthony Towns, right? Windy fingers.
Yeah.
Why?
Just like
why would
they
do this? Yeah.
Why would you?
And Windy went on ESPN last week, Thursday or Friday, and said, I was kind of surprised at how many executives I talked to who felt like the Timberwolves won this trade. So wait, you're telling me that a week ago, the initial emotional Friday night into the weekend fan reaction and media reaction was, what? How could they possibly? What are they thinking? But you nailed it, dude. That team was before Gobert got traded to the Wolves. The Wolves were a 46-win team with great vibes, right? Pat Beverly on the scores table. And Tim Connelly says, yeah, our goal isn't to win 46 games. Now, of course, they took a step back from that. The next year, it took them 2 years before the Gobert trade really paid off. But he's not afraid to look at a team that looks pretty good. It's a pretty good team, and make a huge move to shake it up for the long view of advancing to the finals or whatever it is. But now that the dust has settled and everyone's emotions have kind of calmed down, and the people running NBA teams have chimed in off the record behind the scenes with Windhorst isn't the only national guy I've seen report this, by the way. Mm-hmm. The executives in the NBA think the Wolves won this trade, which is really, really interesting. So the fact that the league feels that way, the fact that the odds we just went through say that, the Knicks have a better chance to win the championship, and so do 3 other Western Conference teams.
Yeah, exactly.
Just the vibes are under the radar right now for this team.
Tim Connelly's done nothing for us not to have confidence.
Yeah.
And like, again, I joke. At times an executive makes a move and I'm like, that's a bad move and it's just not smart. And I don't know that you truly know your sport as well as you think. Tim Connelly, opposite. Tim Connelly's like, okay, I don't totally see it all the time, but you've done enough. And part of what I like about his style is it's done in a very cold, calculated way. Like there's no emotion tied, right? Because like there is a lot of, Kat, there's a lot of emotion there. Like a lot of the objection is emotion. It has nothing to do with actual basketball.
You're right. But Connelly at the press conference where they brought in Julius Randle and DiVincenzo, he acknowledged, he like tore down the fourth wall of being an NBA front office leader. And he said, the idea of trading people is really disgusting.
Right.
But
because he's a genius cyborg.
Because
he's been told, say it was tough. He's like, okay,
it wasn't hard.
But
you're uprooting people's lives.
He's a basketball cyborg. I hate to uproot people. You're traded. But then
he shows up to Kat's house like an emotionless robot.
But that's what I'm saying. and think about the guts to like, you trade this guy. He doesn't see it coming. From all accounts, really did enjoy it here. And yet you want to make it personal enough, but you just put an end to his time here. That's what I'm saying is I really respect that.
Yeah, I just, again, for the 100th time since that trade was made, when Tim Connelly chooses like an off-menu thing for lunch, I say, sounds good. I trust you at this restaurant.
Exactly.
He's done nothing at this point as a roster builder in Denver and Minnesota to make you think, like when the Twins trade for a pitcher, your first thought is to Google, does this pitcher have a partially torn UCL or something?
Tommy John, shoulder problems. Exactly. That's my point. Like, I think some people, I think this whole thing of, well, they know more than us because they work in sports is ridiculous, because there are guys like Connelly who deserve that.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to get to our favorite and least favorite current Wolves things for the next couple categories, but our friends at Padrigs have been great friends here the last few months. That's becoming a favorite place for the sports dad to wet his whistle, huh?
Oh, absolutely. And guess what, too? Not just there, but also at home, because they are available. They're delicious beers, which, by the way, are beers that taste like beer. Padrigs doesn't try to like hide behind, well, we got this Fruitalicious thing, and they got a great red beer, lager, and their beers, which are absolutely outstanding, available in more than 80 liquor stores in the metro. So they are all over the place. And again, I'm encouraging you, if you are not familiar with red beers and you love beer, try this. They were big in the 90s. They disappeared, but the Irish and UK classics that Padrigs gets are unbelievable. Check them out, too, at their brewery, the Old Land O'Nod Factory at the corner of Broadway and Central Avenues Northeast. Check them out on Facebook, Instagram, or Padrigs.com. I'm telling you right now, Sports Dad loves this beer, and so will you. So give it a try. And you know what? If you're enjoying a delicious one, or you go there, tweet us your pictures at Jay Zolgad or at Score North. We always love to see people supporting those that support us.
Yes. Also, Nicol Law is the exclusive personal injury law firm of Score North podcasts. And if you or a loved one has ever been in an accident and life is getting kind of chaotic and you just need a guiding hand, maybe to help you get the compensation you deserve after the accident, That's where Nicol Law comes in. Minnesota's local award-winning injury lawyers, very familiar with the Twin Cities area because they live in the community. They are one of us, so to speak. You can start your path to winning with some familiar faces at NicolAlaw.com or give them a call at 1-855-NICOL-A. Okay, what is your favorite current Wolves thing?
So Ant didn't play on Friday, so this is not finalized yet. But you know what my current favorite thing is? To see what Chris Finch, who's a very good offensive-minded coach, is going to do with Cat gone. And, like, what are the rotations? DiVincenzo, I mean, he already in the game on Friday looked fantastic. I believe it was Na who was the backup point guard on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So he got to handle the ball quite a bit. I think that this provides, with Cat gone, and this is not a rip on Cat, but it provides a blank canvas of sorts to reinvent yourself offensively. And I am very excited. My favorite thing is to see what I think a coach who does a good job does with that. It's my favorite thing right now.
I'm gonna pick one thing you said that is specifically my favorite Wolves thing. Donte DiVincenzo's first quarter preseason, but first quarter as a Wolf, as advertised, running around off screens, just comes in.
Love the movement.
Cashes 4 threes in the first quarter, and then I think it was all in the first quarter, if not a sprinkling, but and then just chills out, relaxes the rest of the game. And we brought up how Anthony Edwards learned a ton from being around legendary players and Hall of Fame players at the Olympics. Well, Donte DiVincenzo, who, by the way, like championship pedigree in college, NBA, spent that year with Golden State.
Yep.
And he was asked about what he learned from being in Golden State a couple years back. And he talked about off-ball movement, Steph and Klay, and just going to school, just the same thing Anthony Edwards said. Just going to school. And I'm going to summarize. I saw this video clip making the rounds on social, and so I'm sort of paraphrasing the quote. But he basically said, if you're standing still, the defense gets to rest. First and foremost, you're just like, if you're just in the corner, now your defender gets to take a couple deep breaths for 20 seconds, and you just make it really easy on him. So move around, if nothing else, to tire out the defense, which is what Steph and Klay have been doing for 14 years. But he said if you're constantly moving and running off screens, at some point the defense will make a mistake, and that could happen when there's 18 seconds left on the shot clock. It could happen when there's 4 seconds left on the shot clock. But if you're constantly moving and pinging and trying to get yourself open or running defenders through screens, you will tire them out, and they will make a mistake. And I'm not saying he's going to play at the level of Steph and Klay, but yeah, like.
But we saw the movement. He's right about that.
Yep. So just him having that level of basketball IQ, and not every 40% three-point shooter is the same. Cat is more of a spot-up, sort of stationary, run a play. He does have a little bit of a step-back game too.
Yeah.
So he'll get in his bag. But there's a reason why DiVincenzo can get off an average of 9 threes a game. And when he was playing heavier minutes down the stretch, I think he was averaging like 11 and a half attempts per game.
Yep.
To get that many off and hit at a 40% clip, you're not just standing there waiting for someone to pass you the ball. You are moving and getting open and creating volume of offense for your team. So just Donte DiVincenzo, I think he's going to be an instant fan favorite as soon as the season starts.
What's your projection of how Randle fits into this offensive scheme?
Very much TBD. But the first thing I love is how much Chris Finch and Julius Randle love being around each other. They who would have thought? Like, they spent a year together in New Orleans 5 years back in 2019, and they both speak glowingly about each other. But Tim Connelly went to school on the things that were deficient in that Maverick series, and even at times in that Nuggets series. They won the Nuggets series, but there were some games where, like, man, they just couldn't generate points. And one of the things he looked at was generating offense. They were 17th in offensive net rating. They were not a great offensive. They were the number 1 defensive net rating team, and a serviceable enough offense with Anthony Edwards basically carrying the load. And then they hit a high percentage of three-pointers, but they weren't taking enough because they weren't generating enough open looks off movement and whatever. So creating offense is one of the biggest problems. And I'm not saying that Julius Randle is a better overall player than Cat.
Right.
But if there's a couple minutes left in a half and it's a close game and Anthony Edwards is either taken out or double teamed or whatever, and I need one guy to just get me a bucket, who do I trust? Julius Randle or Karl-Anthony Towns? I trust Julius Randle. One-on-one, isolation, get me a bucket. Get to the rack without stumbling over someone for an offensive foul.
That's the thing that I like, yes.
No, if it's, okay, someone is standing outside the three-point line and needs to cash a three for me right now, yeah, I'm taking Karl-Anthony Towns. He's one of the best shooters in the NBA. But I think Randle has a deeper offensive bag in some areas that will be helpful for the Timberwolves next to Anthony Edwards.
So what's your guess on what it looks like when Gobert and Julius are out there together?
I will say this. I told this to Kyle on Thursday. Everyone's all like up in arms about spacing, right? Like, oh, what's it going to...
Yeah, sure.
Well, the Wolves didn't have great spacing last year either. Well, they were 17th in offensive net rate. People are acting like, oh, they had great spacing, and now they're going to not have great spacing.
2 years ago, it feels like, and then it improved slightly, but it still wasn't great.
Yeah. So, like, spacing is still going to be a question. I think part of what you can do is, with Julius Randle coming into a new organization, 30 years old, injuries, trust Chris Finch. This is a deep team that can potentially win the championship. It's a really easy reset to say, hey, we're not going to play you 35 minutes a night like you've been in New York. He's literally averaging 35 minutes a night, Tom Thibodeau.
Yeah, it's Tibbs.
Yeah, let's pump the brakes. And by the way, Gobert, you're on the wrong side of 30. You don't need to be playing 35 minutes a night. Let's just scale it back. Julius Randle plays 29, 30 minutes. Naz Reid's minutes go up. So, that Gobert, Naz, and Ant on the court at the same time as a trio is the best three-man combination they have. So I would start by looking at what you already have and making sure that you're not robbing from those minutes. But, we're going to have to see it. It's going to be a work in progress.
So I've been giving this some thought, too, especially when it comes to Randle's involvement outside of the regular season. What does this do in the playoffs, potentially, as far as matchups go? Because, like Gobert can play a key role, but we all know about the potential deficiencies in playoffs. Does Randle, because Cat was sort of Cat. Does Randle give you, does Randle, Naz Reid, and Gobert at different times give you different things in playoff games that the Wolves lacked last year?
Yeah, good and bad. Because a couple on the bad side, because Cat is a big 7-foot body who's pretty nimble, you could kind of throw him on Jokic, and it's just Jokic has to work to get that shot over Cat.
You're right.
He just makes Jokic. Well, no, Julius Randle's like maybe 6'9". He's not as tall, not as lanky, so he's not going to be as much of a hurdle to jump over if you're a Jokic. So I think in a specific scenario like that, who would I rather have guarding? And we've seen that Gobert works better off ball, kind of roaming and helping on Jokic.
Yes.
But on the flip side, what a lot of teams have done in the past few years defensively on Cat is because Cat is just, you'd think put a smaller player on Cat, we'll just punish him in the post. But Cat doesn't really do that. So teams have just kind of taken Cat out of games and series at times by just putting a smaller defender on him, like Aaron Gordon. All right, just go pester Cat or run smaller defenders. I don't think that's going to work quite as well against Julius Randle. I think you're going to, if you think you're just going to like put a smaller dude on him and he's going to go away or just take bad shots, I don't know that that's going to happen. I do wonder what Naz Reid's role in minutes are going to look like. It sounds like they're going to start Julius Randle off the bat, but So the other thing to note before we get to least favorite current Wolves thing, the depth. It's one preseason game, but Josh Minott has apparently had a great summer. His shot has been the main missing link. He's an energy guy. He can play some defense and generate steals, but if he can't make threes, and he really hasn't at any level consistently, you're not going to get minutes. But that dude knocked down about 4 threes in that preseason game. He's been working on his shot. And then Rob Dillingham, he's, efficiency and size are going to be questions, but he's very comfortable just getting off shots and getting buckets from whether it's in the paint with floaters or knocking down threes. So.
Absolutely.
Your least favorite current Timberwolves thing.
That is exactly it. You just brought the point up, and our guy, Royce, did a column on Sunday about this. Now, Pat's tongue-in-cheek point is too much talent. How are you going to play all the talent? But in all seriousness, there's some guys that you would probably like to play who simply, I don't think you can find time for.
Yeah.
I guess my question is Dillingham, Terrence Shannon, guys that you would really like to play. How do you work them in? I think Chris Finch is going to have his work cut out for him. First of all, in making end of the roster opening night decisions, but second of all, in playing guys. So, it's a good least favorite thing to have. It's, not a real problem, but I do think it's going to present some obstacles because I think there are some guys that you would probably really like to play. Some guys who arguably could have key parts of the future here because Mike Conley at some point is going to have to retire.
Yeah.
So it's basically how do you find room for the guys that deserve to play to get them in at least sometimes. And then my guess is you're going to have a couple of guys potentially in Des Moines who are really good.
Yeah, like I'm guessing Jalen Clark is going to he's the UCLA, he was the defensive player of the year like 2 years ago in college. He's probably going to get some run down there. I will, because there's not a whole lot to hate right now. So I'm going to piggyback off you and say the lack of depth behind Mike Conley of guys that you for sure trust to run point. Because you could kind of always lean back on Jordan McLaughlin as just a professional point guard. He can organize the offense and be the straw that stirs the drink. If Nicol is going to take on more of that role, is it going to take away from his defense? There's some questions there. But my least favorite things are mostly just like tongue in cheek. I kind of want to see some of these young guys. I'd like to see some Leonard Miller. I'd like to see some Josh Minott and maybe some Luka Garza, but on a team that runs 10 or 11 credible players or first round picks deep. Like I want to see some Joe Ingles minutes, but we might not get a whole lot of Joe Ingles.
Dude, he is great. He is such a character. He is so fun.
Yeah, he's got that Aussie charm.
Yes.
Here's a random question on Luka Garza. If this was your classic bad Timberwolves team from 8 years ago or whatever, like these teams where they just go in and they're just praying to make the play-in. If you were to find time 30 minutes a night for Luka Garza, who again put up crazy numbers in limited minutes in a preseason game, would he put up like 20 and 9? Would he be a guy if you gave him minutes? I think the defense is going to be a problem for him, but if you put him on a bad team and gave him minutes, he'd probably score like 18, 20 points a night.
And that guy got himself in good shape last season, but I saw him on Friday. It's ridiculous.
He's chiseled.
He is chiseled now.
Yeah.
I mean, he used to be in college a good player, and I wouldn't call him doughy, but I also wouldn't call him chiseled. He is chiseled.
Yeah, it's wild.
I wonder if he deserves a chance elsewhere, though, because I do agree. Like, I do think he could contribute.
And he's on like a 2-year contract now, I think. So it would be fun. I'd love to see him on a bad team at some point that gives him the 25 to 30 minutes that he's probably earned, but he's just not. And now, if there's an injury, I do think because they put him into that Nuggets game where they were down 3 bigs early in the season last year, and he held his own, and they almost won that game.
They did.
And then last category here is going to be, I think we can either do quote of the week or favorite stat of the week. Stat might be more fun because we can kind of incorporate quotes in the other categories. But favorite stat of the week, I want to throw this one at you. From NBA.com stats department, the Wolves now have 3 of the 10 best wide open 3-point shooters in the NBA from last year's statistics. So Donte DiVincenzo made 45% of his wide open 3-pointers where a defender is not within 6 feet of you.
Okay.
In terms of volume, he had 159 made wide open 3-pointers, which could be like running around off screens and stuff too. Mike Conley hit 48% of his wide open threes last year. Yeah, and Naz Reid hit 44% of his wide open threes. So you remember the playoffs a few different times because like Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Jaden McDaniels can be really good 3-point shooters, but very streaky.
Yep.
But if it's Anthony Edwards and it's pick and roll or it's dribble drive and he's drawing defenders and you've got Conley over to DiVincenzo back to
and the ball's moving.
Naz Reid.
Yeah.
Like
bang, bang, bang.
They've
Exactly.
got 3 of the best wide open 3-point percentage shooters in the NBA, which should be fun. Just try and get those guys open looks any way you can.
I think that the offense has the potential to be really fun.
Yeah, the defense
really
might
fun,
take a little step back because it's hard to just maintain the best defense in the league. But if you can, maybe you can be like the 5th best defense, and then your offense takes a jump up with more depth. And
don't sleep on the fact though that, as I predicted on Write That Down last week, I think this whole Olympic thing puts Cat in an, if this makes sense, MVP state of mind, or Ant in an MVP state of mind. I really do. Like, I think he's a funny guy. I sense he's pretty perceptive about things though. And I think now he's back, and I think this was like the final very important ingredient. I think he understands now what it takes exactly. He basically said, I came back from the Olympics, came right here, got in the gym. I've been playing since. Like, there's a desire that was there that I think has gone up.
We might get playoff Ant more regularly in the regular season. After
I think there's less. I think he probably was told, the night's off, got to come down a little bit.
Yeah.
But
none of these
if Durant said that, he's going to listen to him.
Yep.
No.
Yeah, he had a bunch of big brothers, and then even LeBron wasn't, the Ant and LeBron, they weren't playing, and Anthony Davis wasn't playing. But there was that moment.
Yep.
I think it was before the game where they're all in their like sweatsuits and stuff, and LeBron and Anthony Davis now treat Ant like one of their best friends, little brothers.
He's in the club.
Yes.
He's in the club. That club is hard to get into.
Yeah. And he wasn't really even kind of a year ago, but not as much as he is now.
Well, and I think he's always been a outgoing dude. So like, I think people have always liked him, but like that, I saw that too. And I thought, you're in the club now. Yeah. Like you don't get embraced like that unless you have like crossed a respect mark threshold.
He's got the right wristband now. The right wristband.
Yeah. But I do think that there is a MVP type Ant that we probably have not seen, that we are, to what you said, going to see more consistently, which will be awesome.
So there's your State of the Wolves Monday here on Flagrant Howls. He is the sports dad, Judd. I am Phil. Kyle will be back with a random Wolf of the Week as well later on this week here. This is your favorite Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.
Dean Garrett.